Hi everyone, this is meteorologist Joel Curtis with your Alaska Weather TV show for April 11th, 2021. Starting out with our hazardous weather, we have a lot of watches, warnings, and advisories all across the state. We'll start with a blizzard warning for St. Lawrence Island and the Bering Strait coastal area. Also, we have a winter storm warning from the Yukon Delta all the way up to Upper Noatak, and that's until 6 p.m. today. A high wind warning for the eastern Alaska Range until 10 a.m. on Monday. A winter storm warning for the northeast Gulf Coast, including Yakutat, from up until 4 p.m. on Monday. Winter weather advisory for the eastern Brooks Range until 6 p.m. on Monday. Winter weather advisory for the Chukchi Sea coast until 6 p.m. on Monday. Winter weather advisory for Bristol Bay until 10 p.m. tonight. And a winter wind advisory for the Denali area from until 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. And also we have a high wind warning for the eastern Alaska Range, and that's until 10 a.m. of Monday morning. So moving on to our satellite image, what you can see there is a low pressure system wrapped up over near St. Matthew Island, and a lot of warm air aloft associated with the frontal system moving north into the western portion and central portion of the state. Also, there's probably, you can see just a little bit of a wave forming on the front south of Kodiak, and that's going to be affecting us later tonight. And so lots of warm air, but it's moving aloft, so that's not modifying the temperatures a huge amount when we get down to the surface. So starting out for today's weather, there's that slug of warm air moving up into the Gulf of Alaska, but it's not having a big effect just quite yet. Rain out ahead of it, but as soon as you get on shore, the rain turns to snow, and that's all the way across the mainland portion of the state and out to the Bering Strait. A frontal system wrapped around a 981 millibar low, and that's just about near St. Matthew or so, and snow showers in behind that system in the northwesterly and westerly flow down low near the surface. Also a 1034 millibar high south of Haida Gwaii. And then for tonight's weather, that low forms off of Kodiak, and it comes up almost to the southern Kenai Peninsula. Frontal system wrapped around it, but now that cooler air is catching up with that warmer air, so that's why it's not having quite enough effect. 1034.9 millibar high over the Yukon Territory, and then also snow out ahead of the system of the front wrapped around the 985 millibar low south of St. Lawrence Island, and a trough dipping into the eastern Aleutians with snow showers with that system. So for Monday's weather, we now see that the low near St. Lawrence Island has weakened to 991 millibars. A new low has formed north of Shimia at about 1,000 millibars. Front is now formed going onto the Alaska Peninsula, a little warm air out ahead of it, and then a weakening cold front over the central Gulf of Alaska with rain out ahead of that and snow as you get inland. Also note that there's a little mixed precipitation in the area of the Yukon Delta and Norton Sound. So that warm air has had a little bit of effect as you get near the Yukon River. Then for Tuesday's weather, we can see now that a couple of systems have developed south of the state. One south of Dutch Harbor at 1,001 millibars, but the main system to be thinking about is the 986 millibar low well south-southeast of Kodiak Island. That system is wrapping up, and the warm air that's coming up with that system is actually a little deeper than the last system. So I think we're going to get more effect in the temperatures from this, and also some changes over in the precipitation type. But snow out across much of the mainland, some mixed precipitation as we get north of McGrath. And then that old low near St. Lawrence Island, about 1,008 millibars or so, with a trough extending across the north slope. So our low temperatures Monday morning, we're looking at 30s and upper 20s for southeast Alaska. As we move over to south central, 28 for Golconda, 31 for Valdez, 25 for Talkeetna, 30 for Anchorage. So the temperature's still hanging in there for the 30s on Monday morning. And then as we get look our north for Monday morning, temperatures in the minus teens all along the north slope. 8 for Fort Yukon, 11 for Kotzebue, and as you get down to Nome, look at that, 24 now. It's temperatures warming up a bit down there, and as you get down to the Alaska Range, temperatures in the 20s, and actually even a couple of readings for example, for the Yukon Delta for 30 degrees. So our low temperatures for the Southwest, we see temperatures in the upper 20s and lower 30s for Southwest Alaska. As you go out the Alaska Peninsula, temperatures in the mid to upper 30s, 29 for the Pribilofs and 31 for Adak as you get out there. For our high temperatures Monday afternoon, temperatures in the lower 30s, upper 30s and lower 40s, all the way up to 44 for Craig, Klawock, and Ketchikan. So quite a bit warmer in the southern part of the Panhandle. Also much warmer for South Central. Check out the 40 degrees. Only Valdez has got the 37, but temperatures in the lower 40s all the way down to Kodiak. In the meantime, high temperatures Monday afternoon along the north slope in the single digits all the way up to 20 in Point Hope. As we get down to Nome, it's up to 33 degrees. Fort Yukon up to 33 degrees. So we're starting to see a few readings above freezing. And then as you get down toward the Alaska Range, 42 for Fairbanks, 40 as you get on the Alaska Range, and 38 for McGrath. And then for our high temperatures Monday afternoon, temperatures in the mid and the upper 30s in southwest Alaska, going out to up to 40 on the Alaska Peninsula, 31 for the Pribilofs, and 30 plus 37 out at there at Shemya. Our low temperatures Tuesday morning in the upper 30s and lower 40s, up to 44 for a low temperature for Ketchikan. So maybe spring is arriving after all. Temperatures in the 30s and the mid 20s as you get into south central Alaska. For low temperatures Tuesday morning, single digits along the north slope, 14 for Point Hope, 23 for Kotzebue, 26 for Nome, and then as you can see, you're starting to see those lower 30s as you get further south near the Alaska Range, 27 for Fairbanks. And for the southwestern portion of the state, we see temperatures in the lower 30s and the upper 20s, 22 for McCoyuk, 27 for the Pribilofs, and in the mid 30s as you start going out the Alaska Peninsula, and then that cool air is kind of wrapped in for the central and eastern Aleutians. For a high temperatures Tuesday afternoon, 50 degrees for Ketchikan, and 43 for Sitka, up to 40 for Skagway, 41 for Yakutat, and then temperatures in the mid 40s all across south central, including Kodiak Island. For a high temperatures Tuesday afternoon, we see temperatures in the teens along the north slope, 28 for Point Hope, 38 for Fort Yukon. So we're starting to see temperatures, those high temperatures above freezing in the 40s as you get down toward the Alaska Range, including 44 for Fairbanks, 33 for Nome, and 27 for St. Lawrence Island. For the southwest on Tuesday afternoon, we see a lot of temperatures in the 40s, a few in the mid 30s or so as you go out further out, 33 for the Pribilofs, and still 40 as you get out toward Adak. I wanted to spend a little time today on the 6 to 10 day forecast. This is done by our Climate Prediction Center in Washington, D.C., and the indications are that we have a pretty good chance of above normal temperatures, particularly in southeast Alaska, for the period the 17th through the 21st. And also note that it's a bit drier, like it should be at this time of year, with below normal precipitation for all the way from southeast on out to Nunivak Island, and then about normal precipitation as you get toward northeast Alaska. And then a little bit more, I wanted to show the 8 to 14 temperature trend ending April 25th. Above normal temperatures forecasted for the entire state, including much above normal, pretty darn good chance for southeast Alaska above normal. And for the central part of the state, it's still a pretty good chance, and the whole state has got at least some chance of being above normal for temperature. And then for our precipitation, as we get out to, trending toward April 25th. Normal for the northeastern third to a half of the state, but it's below normal as you get down toward the southwest, including Anchorage and Bethel and Dutch Harbor, and about normal as you get over toward southeast Alaska. So things are beginning to look like spring in our longer range forecast. Please stay safe out there. Thanks for tuning in.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
And now for your aviation forecast. Starting out with our flying weather Monday morning, we've got extensive IFR all along the west coast, all the way down to the Nunivak Island and the Pribilofs. Also for western Cook Inlet over into southwestern Alaska, and all along the Gulf Coast, starting at the Homer area and all the way across down to Baranof Island. For Monday afternoon, still some IFR lingering along the west coast, also St. Lawrence Island, Nunivak Island, St. Matthew, and the Pribilofs. A little bit of IFR moving into the western Aleutians, as well as southwest Alaska, the southern side of the Alaska Peninsula, and then all along the Gulf Coast from about Seward on over to Baranof Island, and a little bit on the interior side of southeast Alaska. Then for Tuesday morning, we have the IFR is reduced somewhat along the west coast, still some over the Seward Peninsula, some in southwest Alaska, west side of Cook Inlet, and also southern Alaska Peninsula, moving into the central Aleutians, and then the Gulf Coast again, all the way from Prince William Sound on over to Baranof Island, and a little bit on the interior side of southeast Alaska Panhandle. Then for Tuesday afternoon, IFR is really reduced, just a little bit left in the Bering Strait area. Also the eastern Aleutians now, and the southern end of Kodiak Island, as well as the Yakutat area. For our pass conditions on Monday, Anaktuvik Pass, marginal VFR. Atigan Pass, marginal VFR. Lake Clark and Merrill Pass, both IFR. Rainy Pass, IFR. Windy Pass, marginal VFR. Isabel Pass, marginal VFR. Mentasta Pass, VFR. Tanita Pass, marginal VFR and a little bit of turbulence in the morning. Portage Pass, IFR, expect turbulence all day. Chilkoot Pass and White Pass, marginal VFR, dropping down into IFR, and expect turbulence for both passes all day. For freezing levels, Monday morning, at the surface, again, for most of the state, all the way down through Cook Inlet, part of the northern part of the Alaska Peninsula, but a little bit of warmer air moving into southwest Alaska. Also, you can see that the main warm air is well south of the Panhandle and Haida Gwaii. For our icing on Monday, a little bit of considerable moderate over the Bering Strait area below 4,000 feet, also down onto the Alaska Peninsula and the eastern Aleutians below 4,000 feet, below 6,000 feet as you get out into the Gulf, and then between 2,000 and 10,000 feet, considerable moderate all along the Gulf Coast, right down to Baranof Island. For our jet stream on Monday, about 55 knots southerlies over the west coast. In the meantime, we have a southwest jet. It's not too well organized, but about 80 to 90 knots or so as it crosses the Panhandle. And then we have a 135 knot jet developing in the western Aleutians. For 9,000 foot winds on Monday, we have quite a bit, 40 to 50 knots over most of the mainland, and then about 50 knots down to 40 knots as it crosses the Alaska Panhandle. Also, again, we have that westerly jet setting up over the western Aleutians up to about 80 knots or so, with a low pressure system just south of St. Lawrence Island. And then for our 30,000 foot winds on Monday, that low is right there for southwest of St. Lawrence Island. As you can see along the west coast, 40 to 35 knots. And then about 50 knots for some turbulence as you get along the Gulf Coast all the way over to Cordova from about Baranof Island. So for our turbulence forecast on Monday, we have considerable moderate and some isolated severe all along the Gulf Coast from Prince William Sound, almost about Portage or so, right down through the Cape Spencer area. Also include low-level wind shear in these forecasts below 10,000 feet. And then as you get up country, as you get up to the Alaska, or the Brooks Range, about below 4,000 feet, but some isolated moderate, and also some isolated moderate in southwest Alaska. And then we have considerable moderate as you get into the western Aleutians below 4,000 feet. So fly safe out there. Be sure to get a pilot weather briefing before you take off, and we'll be seeing you again on the aviation portion tomorrow.
We have a big solar flare coming in, so we're out here on an aurora hunt. It's a CME, it's dynamite, coronal mass ejection. It's when the sun, it kicks off energy and these explosions that are larger than the Earth, explosion type things, coming off of sunspots. And if that energy is pointing straight at the Earth, it gets caught up in our magnetic field, and that energy, electrons, come down our magnetic field, collide with oxygen up there about 50 or a couple hundred miles high, and that's what generates the northern lights. My job as the photographer and the aurora hunter is to be in position, you know, location, location, location. And I like to think I'm composing. Mother Nature, it's a bit of a teamwork thing, you know, she's got to put on the show, but I have to be in the right position and of course with the right tools and the know-how. I've stopped keeping track of how much time I spend out here in terms of hours. It's more in terms of weeks or months, or at this point years now. You know, it was always in me. Even when I was a kid growing up in the lower 48, I would spend nights sleeping on our trampoline, just staring at the stars. I'm in 4th grade and I'm going, wow, look at those stars. And I'd see how many nights in a row I could sleep on the trampoline. And I think my record was 23 nights in a row. So I was doing kind of strange things for an Iowa country boy. I can remember specifically the very first time I saw the northern lights. It was 1989, the peak of the solar cycle, and I was going to graduate school in Laramie, Wyoming. And all of a sudden we had heard the northern lights were out. It's like, what are those? I'd never really seen them before. And my goodness gracious, we were on top of a mountain in the Laramie Range and they were turning blood red. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And the very first picture I took, that was 1990. Now, an old film camera, Pentax K1000 on a plastic Kmart tripod. Took 2 shots on slide film and got them back. And I thought, oh my gosh, this beautiful green thing swirling about. And from that moment, I was hooked. When I realized that you could preserve the auroras on film, I just experimented a ton. I'd had a heaping stack of slides, the no good ones. The experiments gone wrong, you know, too dark, fuzzy, out of focus, too light. I had this huge garbage can full of excess slide film, and that was just the learning curve. Well, when I go out here, it's all about getting the shot. And my wife and I, we've called it the hero shot. But the hero shot is the one where you just come home and you go, look at this. And everyone goes, wow, and you feel like a hero. It's a wonderful feeling, you know. It's good for the ego, of course. It's good for the business. But if you kind of strip that away, it's good for what's inside you, because that's really the hero moment in nature. And Mother Nature's putting on this show that is just mind-blowing. It's unbelievable. When I first resigned from my day job, that was in 1996, and decided I wanted to become a full-time aurora hunter, my goal from that moment and to this day still is to get 1 hero shot a year. I figured, and I'm talking the kind that somebody wants to buy from you and hang on their wall, where the auroras are extremely bright, very active, turning colors where you can't believe your eyes. If you're going to preserve a little sample of that with a photograph, well, it's what we call the hero shot. Wow, what a feeling. I mean, oh, you're elevated, levitating, you're lifted up. Your spirits are so high that I love that feeling. And I think I get that so much from seeing cool things in nature that I will go way out of my way to find that. And I can, you know, the next day, well, I'll be just laying there thinking about it and thinking how lucky I was or how fortunate. Of course, I just, you know, spent 2 weeks sitting there staring at the sky and not seeing anything. So you got to remember that, you know, luck is kind of a relative term, but I still just feel incredibly lucky to be even in a position to where I could have been there, taken a photograph of it, and just mainly experienced it. Well, that feeling could last for days.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
And now for your marine forecast. Starting out with today's sea ice edge, there was quite a surge yesterday toward the south. It was about 20 nautical miles or so. Also, Cook Inlet is mainly areas of ice chunks, and there's nothing really forming due to the warming of the sea surface temperature. For Monday's marine forecast for the Panhandle area, southerly winds 15 to 25 knots on the inside and 20 all the way up to 35 knot gale force on the outside waters out of the southeast, and seas up to 16 feet on, especially up near Cape Suckling. For Tuesday's forecast, southerlies 10 to 15 knots on the inside waters, seas up to 3 feet. And then on the outside waters, a range of 25 all the way up to 40 knots with seas as high as 14 feet on the outside waters. For Monday's marine forecast, south central. Starting out with a wide range of wind speeds on the outside, generally southwesterlies, but southeast 35 knots off of Cape Suckling, sea 16 feet. And up to 13 feet as you get further west. Southeasterlies 30 knots in Prince William Sound. And for Cook Inlet, a range of wind directions, but generally southerly, 10 to 20 knots, and seas up to 5 feet in the south. For the Tuesday forecast, easterlies 40 off of Cape Suckling. And then as we get into Prince William Sound, easterlies 10 knots. Southeasterlies 20 to 25 knots in the outside waters, and in Cook Inlet, generally easterlies up to 20 knots, seas 5 feet. For Alaska Peninsula and Kodiak Island on Monday, southeasterlies 20 knots on the Pacific side, seas up to 10 feet, and on the Bering Sea side, southerlies 15 knots, seas up to 8 feet. And then for Tuesday, we see the wind coming around to easterlies or so, 10 all the way up to 25 knots on the outside of Kodiak, seas up to 8 feet. And then on the Pacific side, wind dropped off to 10 knots and seas as high as 5 feet off of Cold Bay. For the Aleutian Chain on Monday, generally westerlies, ranging from about 20 to 30 knots or so, seas as high as 12 feet. And on the Pacific side, seas as high as 9 feet. And then on Tuesday, winds ranging all the way up to 40 knot gale force, seas up to 16 feet, and then you can see an easterly component in the wind in the eastern Aleutians around 15 to 20 knots and seas only 7 feet there. For the West Coast on Monday, generally southerlies, 25 all the way up to gale force 35 knots as you get over the ice, and seas up to 8 feet south of St. Matthew and also for the Pribilofs. And then on Tuesday, Variable wind directions around that low off of St. Lawrence Island. Southeasterlies up to 20 knots over the ice, but then you might see a northwesterly 20 knots, seas 5 feet south of St. Matthew Island. And for the Arctic coast, easterlies 25 to 30 knots along the north slope, and then as you get down to the Bering Strait, southerly 35 knots and seas over the ice, so there's no sea forecast there. And then for Tuesday, easterlies 10 to 15 knots along the north slope, but as you get down to the Bering Strait, 20 to 25 knots over the ice. So for tonight's weather, we've got a pair of lows, 985 off of St. Lawrence, a wrapped up frontal system, and a surge of warm air coming up from the south. Then on Monday, that old low is still dying out near St. Lawrence Island. A couple of frontal systems, they're not really very strong, but there is a southerly fetch in a lot of these seas, and then westerlies in the Bering. And then finally, on Tuesday, we've got a new system has developed, 986 millibar low, south-southeast of Kodiak Island, and a frontal system wrapped around that with a surge of warm air on the east side of that low, on up into the Gulf, and then 1001 millibar low south of Dutch Harbor, and 1008 near St. Lawrence. Stay safe out there. Thanks for tuning in.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.